Hello again, so we're back onto the SALA collection. Let's create a drawing collection together. So in my last video I went through what the South Australian Living Arts Festival is, and we kind of just narrowed down the themes and my research, and I quickly applied for the Science in Arts Award as well, and that was really where I left off. So now is the exciting bit where we actually get to create the collection. So the current plan is to create 6 individual illustrations which all relate to a different tea plant that connect with the sciences. So the sciences is basically that these tea plants contain polyphenols, which are particular molecules that can help negate the negative effects of the inflammation caused by environmental toxins. Put simply, a healthy body will have a balance of oxidants and antioxidants. Oxidants are the inflammatory side of it, and antioxidants balance that out, and an unhealthy body will just have an imbalance, so there will likely be more oxidants in the body and less antioxidants, and that's what causes the high level of inflammation that our body needs a little bit of assistance with balancing back out again and removing that excess inflammation. So these antioxidant polyphenols within the tea help to create that balance within our body and within our blood. So the first piece and the centerpiece is obviously going to be the tea plant Camellia sinensis. This is where most of my research comes from, and in particular green tea is found to have really high levels of these antioxidants that help to reduce the effects of these environmental toxins and the inflammation that they cause. So I've actually already started on this illustration, and you saw a little bit of it in the last video, but let's just dive right in together. So I figured I'd take this opportunity to do a little voiceover explaining the science a little bit further. Hey, Papa. So exposure to environmental toxins basically causes the formation of reactive radical species, which is either oxygen ROS or nitrogen RNS. So ROS is radical oxidant stress and RNS is radical nitrogenic stress, I believe. So basically, inflammatory molecules cause oxidative stress upon cells. This damages the cells and the DNA when in excess and should be naturally balanced with antioxidants. So the natural function of ROS or RNS is to signal the body to immune distress, which is that inflammation. So it is actually a natural process, but when you are exposed to these really unnatural environmental toxins, certainly any synthetic ones that we humans have created, we tend to need a little bit of assistance to get that natural balance back. Camellia sinensis, the plant that I'm drawing now, contains a high level of these really good polyphenols, particularly the green tea leaves. So these contain GTCs, which are green tea catechins, which are polyphenols. So if you hear me say polyphenol or catechin, they're kind of the same thing, just to confuse you. So GTCs account for 80 to 40% of the extractable solids of the dried leaves, and they're known to increase the amount of antioxidant enzymes in the blood, and so that reduces that ROS imbalance that I was talking about earlier. So ROS is reactive oxygen stress. So basically what that means is oxidants create inflammation, and that's the stress in your body. So when you have an ROS imbalance, we know that you have a lot of oxidants causing a lot of inflammation, and your body can't create enough of its own antioxidants to create that balance again, and that's where you need a little bit of assistance. So that's where these GTCs come back in, and these polyphenols within the tea. So the main reason for effectiveness against toxins is that it can prevent cell degradation, DNA damage, and all these other things. And especially in the liver, these tea plants are really effective because it's natural and it's got a bit more of a mild chemical reaction. The liver reacts a lot better to these molecules than conventional medicine because the liver is so sensitive to chemicals due to its purpose of toxin processing. It sometimes just needs the healing to be a little bit more mild. Green tea and its extracts reduce the environmental toxin-induced oxidative stress and damages to the DNA and cellular structures by down-regulating these oxidant inflammation chemicals and upregulating of antioxidant enzymes that we naturally produce in the blood. So this results in that ROS balancing itself out again with the oxidants and the antioxidants. Another really cool thing about green tea in particular is that mycotoxins, in other words fungi, can cause mutagenicity that leads to cancer. And we see that at the highest dose of DTP, which is another polyphenol from green tea, the mutagenicity was inhibited by more than 95%, which is really insane. It was also determined that oolong tea, black tea and green tea, so this is all of the teas that are produced by Camellia sinensis, had anti-mutagenic properties and prevented cancer development. So I will just put an asterisk in here because obviously cancer is one of those big things that everyone tries to prevent themselves against. This is not a medication anyway, this is just some research that they found. Certainly we know that drinking tea is always going to be good for you in some form, but I'm not going to say that it cures cancers at any rate. It just, in the lab, when they get out the petri dishes, it seems to do some really cool stuff. So that's my little disclaimer for you. So for now, I'm just going to keep plodding along with my drawing. I imagine there may be some changes in the current plan with the other illustrations, but I'm not going to worry about that too much now. I'm just going to work on one piece at a time, and that way I won't get too overwhelmed. So whilst I'm plodding along with these illustrations, I'm also writing up a bit of an artist statement. This isn't necessarily required with every collection, but I like to do them because I'm putting a lot of science with the meaning of the work. So an artist statement really does help on that side of things. So how do I write an artist statement? I'm going to do a little bit of a screen recording. So I'm just doing this on Google Docs at the moment. I normally do it on Word, but this is currently shared with the assessment, the award assessors for SALA, so that they can see my artist statement as it's written. So how do I write an artist statement? This can be a really diverse answer. I think artists tend to do this differently depending on how they like to do it, if that makes sense. So I personally like to set it out as a bit of a scientific report kind of format. I say that, but it might not actually be quite right. I guess this is the format that I like. So basically I have a cover page with the title of the work, obviously my name, when I made it, and then we've got the medium and the size. I don't quite know what the size is for this one yet, so I've just left that blank. And then I follow it with a contents page, and then we start on the introduction. So basically the introduction is just going to be a summary of your work. This is the introduction that I wrote up for the award submission, so you have actually already seen this one. And then I also follow up with a little paragraph on who I am as an artist. So this is really good in artist statements because generally if someone's reading your artist statement, they might not actually be familiar with you. So this is where you'll pop in your passion and your mediums and any qualifications you might have as an artist, or perhaps any previous experience. So then we move on to the body of the artist statement. So I tend to break this down based on the pieces. So you can see I've got piece 1, Camellia sinensis, and if I scroll down, these are the other pieces that I've kind of penciled in. They may, as you can see, they may change. And finally, you'll have a conclusion or a summary. This tends to just be my introduction, but a whole lot shorter, because I can now make the assumption that you know what the terminology is and what the ideas kind of relate to. And finally, I think it's really good practice to pop in a reference list as well. I might just see if I can show you quickly one of my old artist statements, just so that you can see one completed. Alright, so this was my artist statement that I did for uni for my final work. So as you can see, I've got that same cover page, I've got the same contents page, and these little lines here, I'll explain what they mean in a minute. But here we've got the introduction. As you can see, I didn't do a paragraph about the artist because this was for my final exhibition for uni. Anyone coming in would have known that I'm now graduating as a contemporary art student. I didn't feel that it was necessary to put in any of that background, considering where this was going to be exhibited. And then we just go straight into the sciences for each of the pieces. So as you can see, this has got a lot of different terminology in here, which I had to explain quite a bit in that first paragraph. And then the second one wasn't too bad. And the final piece is significantly shorter. And then we've got that summary where I'm just trying to make it really, really simple and quick. And oh yeah, I did write a little thank you to those who helped me create the work, because there was a bit of heavy woodworking that I needed help on. Here we also have the references, and then these lines, as I mentioned earlier, when I printed this out on double-sided paper, I could then staple it together as a little booklet for people. So this would be the cover page, this first page was printed out on its own, and then the rest were printed out double-sided, and this little line just indicated that this is where the staples were going to be. So yeah, I hope this was a comprehensive enough plan for you, and I hope this helps with perhaps the collection that you're creating at the moment, or one in the future that you're thinking about. Even if this is just a little inspiration for you, that's all that matters. I guess my biggest advice for anyone creating a big collection that's going to take you quite a bit of time to finish is just to make sure that you are really, really passionate about it. If you're not 100% passionate about it, by the end of it, you kind of get sick of the project and you might not finish it. So it needs to be something that you actually really adore and it's really joyful to continue on with the creation. Well, thanks for joining me again. If you have any questions at all, feel free to drop them below. I'm really grateful to all of you who have tagged along with me, and I hope you have fun with your own collections and your own drawings. See you next time. Uru!